There you go. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, 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 YouTube. I should be live on my YouTube channel. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Welcome. My name is Sean Murphy. For those of you I get to meet now on the YouTube, I'm an international speaker and trainer. I've been around for quite a while. There you go. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Good morning.
Oh,
welcome,
no, where's
welcome,
that going?
welcome, welcome, YouTube. I should be live on. And we got to learn how to mute that. There we go. So listen, if this old farm boy can figure it out, you probably have some better chance than I do. So here we go. Let's put this into speaker mode. There we go. My question for you today is, this is a conversation we're having this month. Each month is a theme, and it's about indistractable, right? Nir Ayal, who wrote the book Hooked, about how technology and companies use technologies to get you hooked, right? The Bing on a iPhone, or the vibration, and it forces you to break your attention to look at something else, right? So they get you hooked. They get you hooked with gamifying, right? Drop a G in the chat if you know what gamifying is all about. If you drop a G in the chat, you know what gamifying is. That means you've been gamified. So now the question is, with all of this gamifying and all of this attraction marketing and all of this pulling you into the program, the question then becomes, how do you get your attraction back? If they know how to absolutely attract you, right? And this has happened. The reason that they've been able to gamify and attract you into new conversations through social media, right? And remember that phrase, remember this phrase, this is a powerful phrase. If the product is free, you're the product. So now the question becomes, how did this happen? How did they learn how to gamify something? How did they learn how to pull us in? Well, we always have these things that are triggers, right? For moms, it's a baby crying. For dad, it's a creak in the night. And, where's the burglar? They jump up with the bat. We have all of these things that trigger us. We have become such a triggered society. We are trigger happy. There's a problem happening inside of the brain, and we are literally wearing out our dopamine machine. Dopamine is that feel good, is that addiction to feeling good. And so what happens is that because dopamine is being triggered all of the time, and we need to have dopamine all of the time, and we need to have this feel better all of the time, and we need to feel good all of the time, we've become numb to what it means to sit quietly with ourselves. As a neuroencoding specialist, as a certified brain trainer, as somebody who has worked for 20 years on self-talk, there's a lot of people out there who will tell you, because they're standing in front of the room. My daddy always said this: the one in front of the room makes the most money. Here's the neat thing: you can build an audience. Now, you can build an audience, and you can get distracted by your audience. You can get distracted by how wonderful they make you feel. Follow me on that. This is going to be a little squirrely. And for those of you seeing me on YouTube for the first time, go watch some of the other videos of mine. And if you do, you'll see I'm kind of a velvet hammer kind of guy when I have conversations with people. So here's the challenge. A lot of times people will build an audience, and it will make them feel good. They'll have an audience of people who like them, who say nice things about them, who encourage them. But after the dessert is gone of being new and being fresh and being something different, you've got to have some substance. You've got to put some meat on the bones. You've got to challenge people for a higher level of themselves. And you know what the challenge is when you start to challenge people to become better, they become mean. When you challenge people to have more of what they want and less of what they don't, they become mean, and not necessarily to you. They become mean because they don't want to lose their old identity, which is why it's so critical that you ask the 3 questions. Do I have your permission to help? Do I have your permission to make you feel a little uncomfortable? And do I have your permission to take you out of that uncomfortable feeling? All too often, people will wind up being.
Hey.
Hold on, let me do this. Okay, good. People will wind up having conversations with people who make them feel good, and there's nothing that changes at the end of the day. Here's the thing. Here's the challenge. Here's the rub. Y'all ready for the rub? Drop an R in the chat if you're ready for the rub. If you're ready for the rub, the reality is this. When you help people get better, there's a good chance they'll leave. They will leave at the point that they've reached their betterness. Not bitterness, their betterness. And you know there's so much more inside of them. You know there's so much more for them to do. And the challenge is, as I remember my dad when I was little, would let me go off and do things that I told him, I said, I don't need your help anymore. And when I said, I don't need your help anymore, he understood what I was saying. I said, I don't need your help anymore. And what he heard, because he was much more brilliant than I was, he said, he told me later on, he said, I heard you have to go have your own experience. Know that I'll always be here. And he didn't really say, he never said that to me till later on in life when we had our adult conversations. So I wanted to let you in on a little secret. The challenge with today's influx of information is that we wind up in compare-itis. The biggest distraction we have today is compare-itis. And the reason that that's a huge distraction is because once you start to compare yourself to others or compare my daddy always said it this way. There's 2 ways to have the tallest building in town. Build yours bigger or tear everybody else's down. What does tear everybody else's down sound like? It sounds like things like, well, somebody's going to get upset with this, or somebody may be disappointed with this, or I may frustrate somebody. Listen, if you're truly going to step into your dream, if you're truly going to step into your vision, if you're truly going to step into your path, you're just going to piss people off, period. Because people aren't ready for you to leave and have your success. The biggest challenge is when people say, have you lost your mind? Drop an M in the chat if anybody's ever said, have you lost your mind? Here's what happens. When you've lost your mind, it's not you who has lost your mind. It's those who see you. They have lost you in their mind. They yell at you, have you lost your mind? I'm doing hand puppets now. That's what I've been reduced to, hand puppets. Have you lost your mind? No, I haven't lost my mind. So when they say, have you lost your mind? You think, what have I done to upset them? Have you ever really sat back, stopped, and asked yourself the question? I haven't lost my mind. I was working on something that was going to be significant for me. I was working on something that was going to serve me. And then somebody who is of influence of me comes along and says, have you lost your mind? And then you think, maybe I have lost my mind. Well, let's look at what Joe Dispenza says. Dr. Joe Dispenza says that your mind is the archive of everything that ever has happened to you. Your mind is the archive of everything that has ever happened to you. That is mind. When you set a goal and you start off on this new task and you want to become indistractable, you can't be distracted. You are going to have to lose your mind. Follow me on this? When you lose your mind, you lose your reference of your past. Therefore, you're stepping into what I call your frontier. Hey, Lewis, good morning. When you step into your frontier, there is nothing there. There is no mind in your frontier. In your future, there is no mind. We only have our past of memories. The challenge is that when the way that we step into our future and we step towards our goal and we step towards our freedom is when we decide that we are going to live in the now, right? Sadhguru says, in this moment, choose joy or choose misery. If you're living in your past, you're in misery because you're missing this moment now. And the challenge with all of this is that we wind up in compare-itis. I should have, I could have, I would have. That's compare-itis. I should have done that. You're comparing yourself to the one who should have. The other challenge is that when we make some big decisions, we hear all the time, burn the bridges. Burn the bridges. The only bridges you should be burning are the ones with the old story that says you're not enough. You don't burn bridges with people. Although many people are taught that. They say things like, well, this may upset people, and I've made some decisions to move on. How many of you have ever had to move on? Let me just drop an O in the chat. I've had to move on. How many of you have moved on in the past? How many of you have moved on in the past and you felt somewhere in your soul, you didn't feel good about it afterwards, but in the moment it felt freaking awesome when you could belittle them, AKA tear down their building so yours could be bigger. Your building didn't get any bigger, ladies and gentlemen. Your building did not get any bigger. Your building is still a one-floor, one-room, scared little apartment that you are living in. And the fact is that you have the entire world available to you. Move on with grace and glory and gratitude. And don't get into compare-itis. This happens in relationships all the time. How do I know? Because I've done it. I've done it. I have torn people's buildings down in the past till there was not a splinter left. It was torch the earth. And therefore, when I looked around, look at how big my building is. It still didn't come up to my knees. I had a very small building. So this idea of becoming indistractable, how do you avoid your distraction? How do you avoid the distractions out there? Drop a D in the chat if any of you have a distraction that you would like to not have to pay attention to. Sometimes that distraction is our family. Drop a DF if it's family. No, don't do that. You don't have to do that. So here's the thing. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? What is it that you're working towards when you decide, when you finally decide, when you make a decision, and a decision means it's Latin for incision, cut in, decision, cut off. When you decide you are not going to allow others to pull you down, others to slow you down, others to take you back, others to compare you to what they could do. I saw a great meme this morning, and I forget who it was. Maybe it was Tammy Mitchell, who's a very dear friend of mine. She said, stop comparing yourself with somebody else's ruler. Stop measuring your success with somebody else's ruler. Isn't that good? I know I've heard it. It just hit me different this morning. So what happens if you start to measure your own success based upon your own capability? This is where sometimes we get a little frustrated, we get a little agitated because we know we should be doing more. We know we could be doing more. So the best way around compare-itis is the only person you have to beat today, the only building you have to build yours bigger than today was your building of yesterday. How do you know how big your building was yesterday? You got to check your journal. if you're not using a journal to keep track of your success, if you're not creating what I call a dangerous journal of life, you will be in danger for the rest of your life. I had another friend of mine say that one robin doesn't mean it's spring. Sometimes we all get too excited. We get too flustered when somebody else has a little bit of success. Here's the challenge. Anyone, follow me on this. Anyone can have success. It's so simple. Do it consistently. Do it with love. Do it with joy. You'll eventually have the success you desire. Your vibe will create your tribe. The challenge is that when we start reading our own press, my mentor of 30 years, when I would tell him some accolades about some things I've done, some people I helped, some things I've achieved, he would say, "Wow, that's a very small newspaper." I said, what are you talking about? He said, "Yeah, when you read your own press, it is a very small newspaper with circulation of 1. And too many people are reading their own press. They read their own press. Here's an example of reading your own press. I have 4,000 followers. No, you got 3 people. I got 7,000 followers on Instagram. I got 5 people right now live on Instagram. Not a bit. Oh, it just went to 4. Son of a biscuit. I just got 4. I got 4 people watching. 4 people out of 7,000. I don't have 7,000 followers. I think I have 2,500 followers on YouTube. I don't even know if Lewis is still there. When you understand the reality of social media and you understand the joy, my question to you is this: do you have a mission? And is your mission clear? Do you have a mission? And is your mission clear? Could you imagine, could you imagine if you were in charge of the next space launch? You were just going to send people into low Earth orbit. And they were going to use your plan for today, your detailed plan for today, your understanding of clarity of today, and they were going to match it to launch a rocket. Would you be ready? People want to launch their ideas into space all the time. You're launching your ideas into the universe all the time. You're asking God for help all of the time. And God says, "I don't know what your mission is." The universe says, "What do you want?" It's all available. Everything you need is a blink away. Everything. How do I know this? Zig Ziglar said it best: help enough other people get what they want, and you will get everything. You will get everything. It doesn't say some things. You will get everything you want. Wallace D. Waddle says it's not about doing certain things. It's about doing things in a certain way. It says in the Bible, on the way to. Doesn't say anything about social media. Doesn't say anything about algorithms. Doesn't say anything about the frequency of your posting. Yes, that's all important. Why is all of that important? Is so that you can understand you're dealing with human beings. Human beings who have feelings, human beings who have wants and wishes and desires. And if you're saying the same bullshit that everybody else is saying, then I got to tell you something. Your crowd's not going to last. You're going to sift and sort through people quickly. You're going to sift and sort through individuals. You're going to have people who are wanting hope. But when the whipped cream finally melts into the hot coffee of doing the activity and doing the work and doing the things, the tasks, you are going to be asked for everything you have when you decide to live your mission. There are people who are going to be able to benefit from your experience, from your story, from your life's tragedies. There are people who are going to benefit from that. Why? Because you don't want them to have to go through what you went through. You want them to have better. And here's the thing, here's the challenge, here's the rub. Drop an H in the chat if you love helping people. If helping people, it turns your crank, it gets your zoom on. If helping people makes you feel a little bit better each and every day, drop an H in the chat. Here's the challenge. You ready for the rub? For you helpers, for you go-givers, for you, the ones that want to make the world a better place, you will be forgotten. You will be forgotten. You will be taken advantage of. You will be forgotten. You will be stepped on. You will be run around. You will be run over. You will be told how bad you are and how all of this other stuff is. And what happens is they instantly forget their awakening. Listen, if you help somebody, you have nothing to do with their success. You have nothing to do with their success. You help them because what is inside of them, you helped it come out. Because if you're going to be responsible for their success, when they crash and burn, God forbid, I hope they don't. Knock on wood. Where's some wood? There's some wood. Knock on wood. I hope no one crashes and burns. Yet when they do, you'll also have to take responsibility for that failure. It's a hard thing to step out in front of the world and say, hey, listen, I'm here to help. It's not easy. It takes cojones. It takes eggs. It takes the biggest things. It takes some big eggs. It takes some big cojones. It takes some courage to know that you'll be forgotten. When do we pray to Jesus? When the shit's hitting the fan. We pray every morning. They're not prayers to be heard. They're not prayers you want heard. We pray when we're in trouble. We say we're thankful for what it is. Gratitude barely crosses your lips for the most part. We say we're thankful until you understand the deep essence of gratitude, until you understand those moments where you had absolutely nothing left inside of you. Your tank was completely empty. And someone came along and said, can I help you? You know that moment of gratitude. You've all felt those moments of gratitude. The challenge is we don't live in those moments. We think simply saying thank you. Here's the challenge. Somebody said to me the other day, if you had to define life and death as in the power of the tongue, what would that mean to you? It can only mean what you give life to. Follow me on this. Follow me on this. If I were to say some cuss words in Spanish and you didn't understand Spanish, you can't say life and death is in the power of the tongue. You can't compare that phrase to something else you understand. This is the biggest challenge with distraction of being in comparitis. We're comparing the words out of somebody else's mouth that they affect me. I cannot piss you off without your permission. And to blame me for you getting pissed off, that's your problem, not mine. Now, you have the power. You have the power. You can hit end, you can hit delete, you can hit unfollow, you can do all of those things. If I were to say in Russian, I don't know how many of you speak Russian, Поцелуй мустраху, sikam sam. I hope nobody in Russian comes back and yells at me for what I just said. But you would giggle. You would giggle. You can't tell me life and death is in the power of the tongue, because if you understood that, you would not be giggling. So we get these things a little squirrely. We get, how many of us have ever used language? Drop a U in the chat. If we used a phrase to our advantage because we could manipulate it that way. That's what a lot of people do who are in leadership positions. That's what a lot of people do who have a mic. They will start to manipulate phrases and conversations and understandings to make themselves feel better. It's not an easy thing. So, how do we get out of comparitis? We have to look in the mirror. I have a very dear friend, Daniela Jukic, who does a gratitude call now for over 2 years, every single day, 365 times 2, that's 600, 700 and some odd days, 700 days of gratitude. Do you think, maybe, possibly there's a chance? Do you think she might be getting a grasp of it? If you were to ask her, I'm going to speak probably not for her, but maybe out of turn, she'd say, I'm still understanding gratitude. 700 hours of working on gratitude and still saying, now I see it in a whole different light. Napoleon, I forget who wrote the book, Outlier, 10,000 hours. What have you done for 10,000 hours? Here's the challenge. Probably a lot of people have compared themselves for at least 10,000 hours. They have become brilliant at comparing themselves to others of who's not good enough and who they're not good enough for and what do they have to do to get better. Here's what I know. Here's what I understand. I understand this. I understand you are an amazing human being. I understand that if you're faithful, you know that God has given you some gifts. You know that God has given you some talents. God's given you some experiences you wish he hadn't given, right? What's that one reel that goes on? Hey, listen, God, I know I'm one of your warriors, but come on. Come on. When's enough? Malcolm Gladwell. Was that Gladwell? Who wrote Outliers? Gladwell's got some great books. So now, what do you do? When we talk about a social media dismount, some people can't even fathom not picking up their phone for an hour. I got to make sure they can get a hold of me, my text messages. How many of you grew up with 3 channels on the TV, a phone line? How many of you remember a party line? What do you mean a party line? You'd pick it up and there'd be the wall on the phone. You'd pick it up and there could be other people talking on it. And you'd have to wait for Mrs. Miller down the street, your neighbor or somewhere on the street, to hang up the phone so you could go get a dial tone so you could call out from your phone. Really? Up in the UP, there's still party lines? Wow. UP stands for Upper Peninsula. I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was just a cute Michigan saying, Michigan up. Yay, Michigan's up. So how do we deal with comparitis? I'll go back to the basics. Here's the fundamentals, right? Vince Lombardi would start every football season. This is a football. I'll leave you with this. Start out with what you've already done well. We have forgotten the greatness that resides inside of us. We don't need to compare. There's people comparing themselves to you. You're like, for what? I haven't done anything great. There are people who are comparing themselves to you. And you don't know it because of how great you are. What's that, Muhammad Ali? How great I am. I'll show you how great I am. Show yourself how great you are. Write down a list of 100 things you've done, that you've achieved, that you didn't have in your quiver, you didn't have in your toolbox before. Did you learn how to drive? Well, that's not a big thing. Tell that to somebody who hasn't driven yet. Have you ever been to a doctor's exam and made it through? Have you ever been through surgery? Have you ever been through high school? Do you have a high school diploma? Do you have a college degree? Were you the first one in your family ever to graduate university? Do you speak a foreign language? Do you speak multiple foreign languages? These are things that we take advantage of, we take for granted. And what happens is when we take things for granted, they take over an advantage of us. We lose the advantage when we take them for granted. So hey, Lucas, you're the Luis, you're the best. Still here. I just saw that over there on YouTube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow YouTube to listen in to some of the VIP conversations. I haven't done this before. So if you go over to YouTube, you go to Sean G. Murphy on YouTube. There's, just to give you an idea, 2,600 followers. Well, actually, that's how many followers there are. There's one person live. I have one follower on YouTube. But if you go over there, I'm going to let you listen in to some of the live Q&A that we do in the mastermind. So if you want to jump off of IG and go over there, you're more than welcome to. Go to YouTube, go to Google Sean G. Murphy, right? Put the G in there. And then you'll see me in my typical blue shirt like this, right? That's the icon for the page. And if you've got a question, feel free to type it in the chat in YouTube, and we'll see what goes on there. So that being said, I love you bunches. IG, head on over to YouTube if you want to join us in the live Q&A. You can ask some questions there, and yeah. Some fun things are happening. Hey, Gene, how are you? I love you all. I appreciate your Instagram. I'll see y'all where? I'll see you over on YouTube. Go join me on YouTube. Till then, bye for now. All right, VIPers. Let me put this into gallery mode. And now, a little conversation. What'd you learn? What'd you like? What'd you learn? What'd you like? Make sure I can hear you there. Somebody give me a sound check.
We're here.
There we go. There we go. Drop a beat, Morty. Isn't that one of those? Drop a beat, Morty. What'd you learn? What'd you like? Questions, comments, thoughts?
So here's the deal with tearing somebody else's building down. Okay. You can only cover it up for so long. And when your associates or your so-called friends around you start figuring out that
here's the deal with tearing somebody,
that you're tearing up buildings
I was
down.
just checking to make sure. I was just checking to make sure it worked over there. So go ahead. I'm sorry. This is the thing with tearing people's stuff down. What?
Yeah. So the whole deal with that is when your associates and your friends start to figure out that you're tearing other people's buildings down, guess what's going to happen? Even though
somebody's going to cry.
Exactly.
It's okay to cry. Well, you can't leave us now.
You just spit out her coffee, I think.
We'll let her come back. Yeah, I can't. He's crying. Okay, we'll come back when Cello is suitably attentive. Who else? Thoughts, comments, feedbacks, feed forwards.
Well, good morning. I mean, honestly, compare-itis is so huge because so many of us, and I think about, me in restaurants and hospitality for all these years, it's like, or the, often I've been thinking about Michael Gerber's book and talking about, the E-Myth. It's like, oh, I can do that better. So I mean, I know this, I can do it better. Well, I mean, if you think you can, then go ahead and try. But, there's many people that try and fail and don't have it all put together yet. So, before you actually take the first step, I suppose you should figure out ways to for lack of a better term, make sure the bumpers are on the alleys, right? And that's not a bad thing. I mean, we can, we can have help. It's okay to ask for help. In fact, too many people don't, right?
Well, they don't because they're afraid to admit that they need the bumpers, and the help is the bumper. Listen, depending upon how good the help is, you may still wind up in the gutter. You might need to be in the gutter. The challenge is too many people. Here's what I had a mentor used to say to me all the time. He says, that guy was born on third base, listen carefully, and thought he hit a triple. Too many people are born on third base and think they hit a triple, and they think they did all of the work. You didn't do the work. And the problem is that they haven't wound up in the gutter. And until you wind up in the gutter, you're like, oh my gosh, the lane is so much better place to be. So understanding that, yes, this idea of compare-itis, we get stuck, we get frozen, we get the belittling in our own mind of asking for help is huge, because we think we have to admit we're in the gutter. I could be on the edge and say, hey, listen, grab my hand quick. I don't want to fall in.
Now,
But
isn't that self-talk though, when you're or the fact that you either too proud, too embarrassed, too to ask for help?
Right. That's us comparing ourselves to somebody we think comparing ourselves to somebody who would be in such a dire position to ask for help. I should be able to do this. A child doesn't have any problem asking for help. It usually comes in, and again, this is addiction to approval, right? How do we get somebody's attention? Well, it's not by effort asking for help, because whenever we need to ask for help, we're made fun of. You can't ride your bike. Oh, look at you. You still have training wheels. And we're like, oh. It starts that early. And then we go into Harvard did a test, and here's the research they did. They found out on average, if I was in an office building, and the person across the hall knew the answer to my challenge, knew how to fix the problem that I'm dealing with, and I knew they knew it. Here's the challenge. Here's the rub. I know they know it. It would take on average 1.4 days, a day and a half, for me to sit in my pain and in my misery till I walk across the hall and say, hey, listen, can you help me with this? And they instantly can solve the situation. The challenge is we don't want life to be easy.
All right,
we don't want life to be fearless. Go ahead.
How many times now, though? Okay, I don't know when that study was, and I do recall that, but it's been a while, right? How many opportunities now from today's age where I hit the keyboard, I went on social, I went, the water cooler, AKA, where I bitched and I complained and I moaned about it before I walked across the hall to confront or to even have a nice conversation with somebody.
Yep. Well, and because we want to build our building taller, so we don't realize what it takes to construct. But man, it is easy to run by and do a drive-by, drop the bomb. Drive-by debilitating people, making people feel inferior, and we get some feed. We trigger the algorithm. It's crazy. Hi, Daniela. Are you back? So. Who else? Thoughts, comments, feedback? I like this conversation, RC. What else is popping in your head? Your brilliant mind there, sir. Jim Rohn never talked about it, right? Or Tom or Tom Chenault or
right. Yeah, I just, again, knowing when you have an opportunity to understand and know where things are coming from. You know, and you mentioned outliers today, you know, Gladwell, I mean, that's 10,000 hours. To get 10,000 hours in something is unbelievable. But you know, we want, you know, society is microwave. Society is, you know, I can just do that. I can do this. I can do, you know, and yes, you do have platforms that you can, for lack of a better term, springboard off of and from, you know, but, and, you know, maybe you've chosen the regular diving board. Maybe you've chosen the high rise board, or, you know, but, you know, how many rotations does it take to get to splash? And, you know, can you actually, you know, make a 10-point, you know, dive, or are you going to land with a belly flop? I suppose that's where courage comes in, or just, we call it ignorance on fire, right? I mean, sometimes, and that's actually a good thing, but the concept of just tearing anybody down for whatever, or not understanding maybe someone's little tips and tricks of how to draw people in or develop an audience, or to, you know, the history of something. I mean, people make quotes and they use quotes, and that's very cool and that's important. But if you know really the root of, you know, who said what, who said, you know, this or that, you know, you mentioned Jim Rohn and some other greats. You know, Jim learned it from other people. And so he used it and manipulated certain phrases and then made it his own. Now, I was always taught not to cheat and everything else. So it really, you know, one of those, like, you know, I'm this age when I learned what this was, you know, but being able to actually use the appropriate quote and, or just give credit online now with all this social media stuff, that actually is something that's new to me, and I'm still learning and working out. So, I mean, I'm almost ready to take the bumpers off there, Sean.
Cool. I love it. Let me know when you push the button. We'll be there for the first strike. Here's the other thing that was, as I was listening to this, you know how we fact check all the politicians? If 90% of the people who spoke on social media were fact checked, it would be a sad, there'd be nobody on social media in 2 days. There would be nobody posting because they don't know where they got their facts from. And when somebody goes back and checks it, if they say, this is my fact, there is nothing that's your fact. You got 26 letters in the alphabet. You didn't make them. I didn't make them. Everything is borrowed. Now, you may put some syntax to it. You may take a fact and turn it and use something that comes out of usually most everything. Jim Rohn was big Bible, right? And everybody is typically Stoic, right? So Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, all of the greats. And we have this idea that there's something new. There's nothing new. There's just now. And when you decide that you are going to be your best now, you might come up with something new. The challenge is most people don't think. 1% think, 2% think they think, the other 97% would rather die than think. So this idea that we need leaders is more evident now than ever. We don't need copycats. We need people who can think on their own, create ideas on their own, stand in front of the stage on their own, and whatever ideas they get that they're going to extrapolate, they're going to expand on. Boy, you better give credit. Napoleon Hill said it best. He said, listen, you can use all of this stuff. All of this information is available, and you can go out and use it. I would encourage you to make sure that you tell people where you got it from, because eventually somebody's going to find out and you're going to look like a fraud. I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to feel that way. This is what he said in his training in the 40s. I think that should be a required test, that exam that people have to agree to. You've got to create a contract with that saying. Doesn't matter that you got it from somebody else. Doesn't matter that you're quoting somebody else. I had a friend of mine who said, I don't quote dead people. I said, then you're going to have a very small bit of information. You listen, that means you can't use anything from Bob Proctor now, right? You can't use a Jim Rohn statement ever again. You can't. So all of this to say, I don't quote dead people. Well, then you probably have a very small repertoire. Because all of the people that you're quoting that are alive are quoting dead people. Just that simple. So who else? Thoughts, comment? Go ahead.
It goes to credibility. Credibility, you give a quote to give yourself credibility in what you're saying, or to, so give credit, credibility. You want if you have the ability, you should give credit. That's what came to my head. But the thought of, you just borrowing, massaging the context is what's really, important. And, giving credit is not a problem. But really quick, you mentioned something about, and it came to my head about being how do I become that? How do I get there? And the question that I wrote down was, well, I'm not the boss yet. I'm not the one in charge yet. How can I show that I'm the leader, or that I'm in charge? I mean, I'm going to answer my own question. It's like, well, you have to lead yourself first. You can be an example for the ones that are your coworkers. You can be, the one that actually has standards, set of standards, maybe that are basic to some, but definitely higher than others. Because people get annoyed, but if somebody's trying to actually outdo the other workers, if you will, then sometimes the other workers, like the crabs in the bucket, they pull you down like, well, what are you trying to show off for? And it's like, well, because I want to be better. I want to actually, do this. Now I'm doing it because now, depending upon what industry you're at, if you have an opportunity to actually show your knowledge of something, you might get a better, pay rate or a tip or, something, because you've learned something. Now you've presented something. So now that knowledge gives you a return. If but there's always going to be the haters to basically like, well, oh, look at them, so, I mean, sometimes I feel weird that, my bride and I are sommeliers, and, we studied and we took a test for wine to become a wine snob, if you will. And sometimes people are like, ooh, they're sommelier, and everything else. And I'm just like, well, how'd you do that? Somebody asked. And I'm like, and I joke, I say, well, I just drink a lot. And, and that, again, I've tasted a lot. I've learned, I've had conversations of people and farmers, literally farmers, because that's really when it bears down to. These winemakers are just farmers, but I have a certain skill and a certain knowledge of it. But it's funny that the reactions, though, that people give that, and we all have different opportunities in life depending upon what your chosen field is, but it's how you approach it, I suppose. And I'm not pompous about it. In fact, quite honestly, I like to demystify all of the different things about that industry, where to make it simple, to make it easy, to make it just approachable. So using that model is something that I always strive to do, just to make it easy. Now, I also, and you've said this, Sean, I use a phrase, well, I just drink a lot. And it's like, I smile, they laugh, they joke, but that's a way to draw the circle bigger and draw people in, because of, making them smile, making them laugh, and then also I drink wine, so it's the approach. it's how you even ask your friends, your boss, if you want to go across the hall to, talk about something that was important, stand your ground in some ways, but ask appropriately so that you can actually learn the next lesson. We're always growing. We're always getting better, or trying to be, I hope.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Hi, Laura. Are you setting up for a question?
No,
Okay.
but I can tell you what I liked.
Okay, tell me what you like. Tell me what you
I have
like,
a
what you really,
question.
really like, what you really, 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 really like.
So what resonated with me was when you said that people are gonna forget about you anyway. And so that kind of took me to the whole thing about expectations, right? Because you said, think about it. It takes courage to go out there. And so, yeah, so I was thinking about expectations and how much, if we don't understand expectations versus trust, how much that can hurt us and how much freedom we can experience when that truly becomes who we are. So I was thinking of that based on a conversation that I had yesterday with someone super unexpected. That was amazing. And I was able to give her a little bit of that in what I've learned in my short life about that. And it was amazing to see how much awareness came into her mind, because I could tell, and I'm paying attention to people. So like the ways her eyes were moving and how she was swallowing, just everything about that was amazing. So that was cool. And that's what I was thinking about.
So why do you believe you were ready for that conversation? Impromptu as it was. What made you ready? Because Kevin Eastman says every day counts on the last day. And yesterday was the last day that you and this woman had not talked. That was the last day you will have never not talked. So what made you ready for the new moment? Prepared for that?
Love. Honestly, I think I'm at a point where I am understanding what love in myself means. And yesterday I experienced love and compassion towards me.
This call brought to you by Are You Ready for the Love? A new idea, new concept.
Yeah, as easy and simple as that sounds, which it could be, but we make it complicated. It all comes down to that. And it's funny because all she was yelling for, and I heard it so loud, was that love and compassion. And that's why I was able to connect. The way the conversation was flowing so effortlessly, I was listening. I wasn't just, waiting for her to shut up so I could say something. I was asking questions. She was doing most of the talking. Yeah. Wow. And all against the odds, right? 40 something. I think she's almost 50. I want to say individual,
God, yeah.
single.
Wow. Did she have to charge her cart to get over to go to lunch with you? Or?
She did. Yeah.
So how's that feel when you're just ready?
Effortless.
Row, row,
That's
row your
it.
boat gently down the stream. And in effortless became the heroine effort of listening, which was effortless. And in that moment, you changed, you helped a woman have a day she never imagined she thought she could. There was no work involved. There was no intensity involved. It was simply being present. And it changed her life potentially forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be tougher.
Oh, yeah. At some point, the food was so amazing. I don't think I've ever had something that good yet. Like, it was so good that she was talking, and it was towards the beginning. And I could hear how she was a little hesitant, even though like she wanted to be there, she was just hesitant with her words. And I say, stop. Take a second, breathe in, smell the pita bread, because the pita bread was friggin' amazing. And the way she did that, it was, I don't know if she's done that before, but she felt it. And I did too, and it was amazing. I wanted her to have that moment. You know, every time she might smell pita bread before, she will be connected to that moment.
Yep.
And I will too.
I love it. I can't wait till I get a hold of my next bit of pita bread and smell it. I'll think of the both of you.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So understanding what happens now when we sit in the moment and we sit present and we sit smelling pita bread. She went home and she probably had a good conversation. If she has family, she probably had a good conversation. If she doesn't, if she had friends, she probably had a good conversation with them. And that vibration, that ripple effect is now coursing through the universe. Now, they may do nothing else with it, but for a moment, they heard the joy of their friend who had lunch with this young sovereign, this young queen of creativity. She got to share her story. And as Jim Rohn says, when you left that meeting, a little bit of her went with you. And as Jim would say, I hope a little bit of me goes with you, because no, a little bit of you goes with me, right? It's the epitome of you take care of you for me and I'll take care of me for you. And you're taking care of you for all of us. And when we understand that, when we grasp that, what can I do to help you? And somebody says, just be you. Take care of you so you can take care of others. This is the idea with all areas of life. Imagine if you took care of your finances for you so that you could take care of my finances if I ever needed it. You could drop a check for $5,000 to pay for or $25,000 to pay for a helicopter flight because I needed it. And you didn't bat an eye. Think about your spiritual, taking care of your spiritual side so that when somebody comes at you challenged by a horrific relationship or something, you can sit in the highest realm of peace, of joy, of love, and in faith for them to find theirs again. Take care of you for me, and I'll take care of me for you. That's the perfect example of it.
I feel that my whole, I have chills.
I love it, love it, love it. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me out.
Oh, just a slight nudge in
Have
front
a
of
good day.
us. Love you. Hey, Dakaya. Good morning, Dakaya.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Can I just say, I didn't expect to have so much joy for cleaning ants that got in my car. They're everywhere. Thankfully, I was in a place that had resources. I just got off work, and I can say that my energy is flowing so beautifully and so freely. I feel so great. My car is getting a great wash. I have never been this happy in my life to do something that typically I would be scared, crying in a corner, crying about a small ant that's not even a millionth of the size of me. But here I am. And I'm still going to get to go home and pack the rest of my stuff, then do my blessing, and then I'm passing out. So I thought, let's just share the joy with all of you. And let's hope that I get this car clean. We're like a third of the way there. So wish me luck. And I love you guys. This is definitely showing me right now. Can I be happy when I'm by myself? I can be happy in front of other people. We can give joy to other people so simple and so easily, but can you have it by yourself? Obviously I can, because I beat the gas station lady here to work. So it must be an amazing day. So yeah.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Love
I
it.
love you guys.
Love you, Dakaya. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I love you guys too. I'll see you later. Well, I'll see you later. Seriously, Alina. I don't know if Steph's on here too, but I love you guys.
So cool. How awesome. Here's the thing. Decide who you're going to be and then live that. It's your definite major purpose. You have a choice. You have a decision to cut off all of the things that don't serve you and work on the things that do. And the challenges of the things that you work on that serve you, people will say, oh, you're just being selfish. Change that to being self-full. And when you become self-full, there's no need to compare. Emerson said, there's something you do so well, people wish they could do it half as well. You are already somebody people compare themselves to. Don't fall into that trap that causes delay and confusion and distraction. Step into your joy. You have, out of the billions of people who have been and of the billions of people who will come, you are the only one with your fingerprints. You are an original. Start being that. Start being your own original voice. And when you do that, funny how the world just flows into your life. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have an amazing day. YouTube, thanks so much for being a part of this conversation today. I appreciate you so very much. I'm going to stop that for just a second. We'll be here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can do the math on where you are in the world. I am your head fun